Hello and welcome back to Hello and welcome back to Bible Eyes, a show where we take the Bible seriously so that we can show you why you shouldn't do that. I think this is going to be a short episode. I've had a couple of long ones recently, so I'm hoping to kind of draw it down a little bit. This is continuing our Christmas series, The Greatest Story Ever Told. We're going to go to the book of Matthew, chapter 2. If you have watched my videos before, you know that I have a special place in my heart for the book of Matthew because Matthew does something that I think is really fun and easy and funny to fact check, which is that all through his gospel, he constantly is invoking these like Old Testament prophecies in order to legitimize Jesus as the Messiah. But what makes it really fun is that he's very bad at it, and he frequently will just like find some random stuff in the Old Testament, say that it's about Jesus, and then just leave it there for us to find 2,000 years later. And this is a great example of this. Now, this is in the Christmas story. So in the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Magi came from the east to Jerusalem. So blah, blah, blah. Herod talks to these Magi, and basically he wants to know where this Messiah is going to be born so that he can go and murder him because he's a cool dude. And the wise men, who, as we covered a little bit in our last video, are evidently experts in Jewish prophecy, quote Micah chapter 5 back to Herod. So they say, well, of course it's going to be in Bethlehem. And we know that not because there's a star that we've been following from the east that settled over top of this barnyard where we found the Messiah. No, we know that because your prophets in Micah chapter 5 said this. They said, "And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, you are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Now, if you're a Christian, you've been hearing this since however long you've been a Christian, or you maybe longer in some cases. And so you're really familiar with this. And we all know, every Christian knows, that it was prophesied way ahead of time that the Messiah would come from Bethlehem. And I think something that Christians have kind of forgotten about the Old Testament is that in the Old Testament, there really is not like one Messiah. And from the Christian view, like we think that the Old Testament calls for one Messiah because we think that Jesus is the completion of this like master plan that's been going on since the beginning of time to send a Messiah to save the world from their sins. But in reality, the Old Testament would just use the word Messiah to talk about quite a lot of people. And it doesn't seem to be the case that they were ever expecting like a singular ruler. All of these prophecies have contexts. And this one has a context as well. I actually just went back and read all of the book of Micah because I wanted to rot my brain, I guess. And what is actually happening in the book of Micah, and you can look into this yourself. You can Google it, or you can find this information. Usually, if you've got like a study Bible, a lot of times this information will be present at the beginning of the chapters because they like to include this sort of scholarly context. So none of this is like, I want to make it really clear. I'm not like going out to some like leftist scholarship that's like, fringe scholarship to try to find a reason not to believe. That's not what's happening. Everything that we talk about on this channel is like mainstream biblical scholarship. Okay, so if you just Google it, and AI will tell you some stuff about the context of Micah chapter 5. I don't really have it very well on my screen here, but during this time, the Neo-Assyrian Empire was expanding, and they were worried about it. And if you read Micah, the whole thing is about this Neo-Assyrian Empire. And this is Micah chapter 5. We'll read it here. "So now you are walled around with a wall. Siege is laid against us with a rod. They strike the ruler of Israel upon the cheek. But you, O Bethlehem of Ephrathah, you are one of the little clans of Judah. From you shall come forth for me one who is to rule in Israel, whose origin is from old, from ancient of days. And so Christians have taken this and like and twisted it and misconstrued it so that like, oh, look, it says his origin is from old, from ancient of days. That's because he's the Alpha and Omega. He is God. They're dropping these little breadcrumbs. All Mike is actually saying is that this person has a lineage that goes back in time to the Ancient of Days. Probably, if I had to guess, I'd say probably is referring to the line of David that comes from Bethlehem. Right? So this, don't like let your Christian training like take you on a flight of fancy. Like we're not talking about Jesus here, okay? And I can prove that we're not talking about Jesus because we can just go read the rest of the prophecy here. This is all in a context. So the whole rest of the chapter has prophecies about the same time period and the same person that they're talking about. So let's read the rest of it. Therefore he shall give them up until the time when she who is in labor has brought forth. Ooh, if you're a Christian, you're probably so excited. Ooh, she who is in labor. That's probably the Virgin Mary, I bet. It's not. And then the rest of his kindred shall return to the people of Israel, and he shall stand and feed his flock from the strength of the Lord in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall live secure. And for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be the one of peace. Okay, so far all of that probably sounds like it could still jive with Jesus, but check this out. If the Assyrians come into our land and tread upon our soil, we will raise against them 7 shepherds and 8 rulers. So this prophecy is very clearly about the Assyrians, and I suspect let's just Google it here, real time. I'm not going to edit this. I'm going to Google when did the Neo-Assyrian Empire fall. The Neo-Assyrian Empire fell around 609 BC, 600 years before Jesus came on the scene. So if this prophecy is about Jesus, it's very confusing that we're going to be talking about the Assyrians coming onto our soil. Now, I'm going to kind of just leave it there because the rest of this is not going to be any more or less convincing. It's just kind of a bunch of random rambling from Micah the prophet. But this prophecy, what I want you to see is it lays out like a pretty clear, like, here's the person we're talking about. This person will come from Bethlehem. They will be a king. And at that time, if the Assyrians come onto our land, we're going to kick their butts with our 7 shepherds and 8 rulers. It says they shall rule the land of Assyria with the sword, the land of Nimrod with the drawn sword. They shall rescue us from the Assyrians if they come into our land or tread within our border. Start to finish, this prophecy is just about the Assyrians. There is no mention of Jesus here. There is no mention of the Messiah in the sense that Christians understand it. This is just saying, like, someday we're going to have a king, and he's going to be strong enough to protect us from this threat that is currently at our borders. Christians are going to argue that this is a dual fulfillment, that, that there was a king that was prophesied, to which I would say, who would that be? And on top of that, there's going to be so many of these videos that we do where there's going to be this caveat at the end where it's like, oh, Christians are going to say that this is a dual fulfillment. And at the end of the day, like, no Christian is ever going to watch this video and be convinced because I've brought in this extra information about the Assyrian Empire. No Christian's going to watch that and like see what I see, which is that this is not a prophecy of Jesus. They're all going to say, this is the Christian autonomic apologetic system kicking into gear. They're all just going to say, like, oh no, this is a dual fulfillment. So there must have been someone prophesied by this situation in Micah, and obviously, of course, that whole prophecy came true because God is God and he's never wrong about stuff. But then in addition to that, it's also a prophecy about the Messiah, and there's no evidence for that other than the fact that it's used to argue that by Matthew. And I don't want to necessarily beat the dual fulfillment thing to death, but I think it's really worth mentioning that, like, we're going to have a lot of these videos where we'll talk about dual fulfillments. And we're going to have exactly 0 videos where we talk about Jesus fulfilling a prophecy in its original context. And that should strike you as kind of odd. If you're a Christian and you're like, well, no, this one's a dual fulfillment, but surely there's some other ones. You go look, because you're going to find a lot of dual fulfillments, and you're going to find none that are actually prophecies that are actually about Jesus. And that's why we should all be confident that this book is full of lies and mistruths. It just doesn't come through on the promises that it makes for itself. So thanks for watching. As usual, I don't have an actual ending to this video. One of these days I'm going to settle on a sign off, but until then, stay frosty out there. Okay, bye.